has hypertension and is at risk of organ injury.
A balanced diet is the key to a healthy lifestyle.
This is the network service of the NTA.
The first duty and responsibility of a citizen is to obey the laws of the country as enshrined in the Constitution. Wikipedia defines law as a set of rules that are created and enforceable by social or government institutions to regulate behavior. Laws are made to regulate the actions of members of a community or country and may be enforced by imposition of penalties. Whether in a democratic setting or not, laws are for the protection of citizens. It is a fact that acting in accordance to the law promotes orderliness, peace and security of the country.
That we can only make Nigeria better if all of us are more responsible, more accountable and transparent in our dealing. We cannot keep accusing our various state governors, House of Rep members, senators, and other men in authority of being lawless, while even us in the small space we occupy, we are lawless. And so we can only make this change happen if you and I and everybody will say that, look, this is the right thing to do this. Change must begin with me. I'm going to do to contribute my own little quarter to make Nigeria great. Once we come with the attitude that we're first Nigerians before any other thing, that we need to make the system work, we need to make the country work, and we are accountable to ourselves, we'll be able to change this. So it's not an issue of imam or pastor. As you're very much aware, you know that we are very religious people, but we are not God-fearing. Because if we're God-fearing people, a lot of the things that happen around corruption, bad governance, and the impunity we see will not be happening.
Another important responsibility of a Nigerian is the protection of public property. Public property is anything that has been provided by the government for the use of all citizens of the country. However, it has become the norm for some Nigerians to break laws. Some individuals constantly steal and vandalize public properties.
The human being is not designed to do evil. The human being is learned to do evil, and that is because of a survival instinct. So if we take care of the right thing, so I believe that if leadership is seen across board, then we'll be able to do, and it starts from the family anyway, because those who go out there to become our governors, presidents came from families. If they've been well groomed, they would have done right. But I think there's a failure of family values resulting to the things we see out there.
We need to have the heart and the mind to say, no, this is not acceptable, don't do it. And if you ask yourself this simple question, when you steal those cover, those rod, how much are you going to make out of it compared to the life of somebody that you're endangering? And so we need to have empathy. We need to have sympathy for people. We need to share in people's pain. And we need to understand that doing wrong does not make it right. And the fact that everybody is doing it does not mean that you must equally do it. That change can start with just one person. In several places around the world, changes do not start with multiple people. They usually start with one person. Nelson Mandela, count them, all of these leaders.
Some public property which are a part of a city's infrastructure for collective use include roads, pavements, pedestrian bridges, electricity transformers, manholes, streetlights, and gully inlet covers, among others. Most of these mentioned public amenities are serial victims of vandalism and theft in the FCT. The most noticeable of these vandalized public property are the manholes on the streets of Abuja.
And we did our research and found out that it is the material that the criminals are interested in, because cast iron can be melted for reuse. So what they do is to pick them up and sell them to foundry owners, who in turn melt them and use them for other purposes. So it's attractive because it has economic value. That is the basic problem for all that we are facing in the city. In 2014, we replaced about 1,403 gully inlets. The gully inlets are the one that looks like a square shape with a grated cover. So we replaced about 1,403 in 2014. And then the manhole cover itself, the one that is round in shape, we replaced about 110 pieces at that time. Then we didn't do anything until 2019. In 2019, we replaced about 3,100 pieces of gully inlet covers and about less than 50 pieces of manhole covers. Those are the bold attempts we have made in recent years. There are about 14 locations all over the city that we have replaced, and they are all intact.
As is common with all urban cities, manholes are dug in to ensure the roads are properly maintained by creating access ways for water and maintenance of sewage systems. A drive through Abuja shows a number of roads are missing manholes and other essential street facilities, mostly stolen by Nigerians who are tasked with the protection of these properties.
Anywhere you find these items being sold, you arrest those persons. The more they arrest those persons, the more it becomes bad market for those who steal them. Now, some of them use them for recycling purposes. So they go as, what do you call it, iron waste, and send them back to this thing. If you go to those factories and they come with those things, as the manhole covers and all of those things, and they arrest those companies, give them, heavy penalties that goes to smeltering or goes for recycling, even if it's a plastic one, then they will not be buying from those who are bringing. It becomes bad market. They will not be stealing again. Then also, why would you sensibly implement on a project? Let's say you have a project that costs you 2 billion. It's not secured. You just use 10,000 naira to secure the project. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any common sense, and that's where the problem comes in. So the project management strategy of the government is poor, and so every project life cycle that we see, based on it doesn't really result in anything meaningful, because poor project management, cycle affects every other thing you think about.
When FCDA noticed that these covers were being stolen, they became very careful about covering them. What is the point of covering them and they will be stolen? So I think they also are in the process of finding alternative means of checkmating these menace. They are looking at materials that they can also use, that will not be attractive. So I think that is the process they are in. Apart from the fact that the road itself is just is not yet totally completed. For instance, in the contract that we have, given to contractors, the contract contains provisions for security of the street light installations. So the contractor is expected to provide security, porter cabins here and there, where you have, security people, and then conduct surveillance at night.
The rate at which road infrastructures are stolen and vandalized in the FCT has been of enormous concern to FCDA authority and some residents of the city, most of whom have suffered from vandalism of these facilities.
Some people fall into those things, but there was a day my tires, both tires almost went, but only one was affected because I didn't know there was a water belt on top of it, flooded area, and that place was the manhole that the covers were taken out, and it's really affected my vehicle. So government need to do more. How about monitoring those places? How about making it really disinterested for those who go for these things? So you create disincentivize that area.
Now, along the line, we discovered that if we did not do anything about the material itself, we will be fighting a lost battle. So what we did was to, redesign the materials and change it to ductile iron. Ductile iron cannot be melted for reuse. When you apply heat to ductile iron, all it does, instead of melting, it will just deform. So it will cripple and it will creep and deform, like it will get twisted and get spoiled. So it's not useful. So that was the beginning of our, victory over this menace. However, the major challenge we have is inadequate funding, because FCDA had gone so far with the deployment of cast iron, and the criminals had started stealing them en masse. Now we needed adequate funding to match up the production with ductile iron. Unfortunately, funding has been a challenge for some time now, but we are not resting on our oars. We keep on every year, based on budgetary allocations that we have for that specific purpose. We have a program for it every year to replace them, the cast iron covers with ductile iron covers. We also make sure we provide secret locks.
The provision of infrastructure is part of the fulfillment of the social contract between the government and its citizens. Some of these infrastructures are pedestrian bridges built to prevent the risk of getting hit by vehicles when crossing the road. However, some residents choose to risk their lives racing across highways, mostly in the Lugbe area of Abuja.
There are so many places where these things have been put in place, pedestrian bridges for pedestrians to use, but you will not see them using it. In fact, somebody will be crossing the road under pedestrian bridge, using leg to cross the road under pedestrian bridge. And most of the time, this vehicle knocks people down, and it now becomes issues. So it's still the fact that people do it, and maybe there are no strong penalties. We are reviewing our regulations. The review regulation provided for if you cross where there is a pedestrian bridge within 200 meters of where you're crossing. If you cross the road, there's a penalty for that. And I think it's like 5,000 naira for doing that. That's the pedestrian now, not the vehicle.
Another common law Nigerians break with wanton abandon are traffic laws. These laws are enforced by several enforcement groups, and yet some Nigerians have the least regard for them, despite the dangers breaking them pose.
There is a total break of our social norms. People are socializing the wrong approach in most homes, and so people don't grow up respecting laws, but people grow in fearing laws. And so in most homes, you find children doing things they ought not to do. But at times they don't do it not because they hear the voices of their parents, but because they are scared of the koboko, the punishment that parents are going to give them, or school instructors. Having said that, in Nigeria, the state does not have the might. You only see the state applying its might when they think they need to subdue you. But in terms of having a law that people say, look, don't break traffic rules, do not follow one way, do not fight in public places, do not do this, do not do that. People test the state, and most often the state doesn't do anything. Again, the state doesn't do anything because if the state responds to certain things, people will say it's because this person is from my ethnic group, that's why you're dealing with him. Or this person of my religion, that's why you're dealing with him. So people do not stand up to speak against injustice. People's loyalty is not to the state, but to their religion, to their ethnic affiliation, and to their chronics.
Towards curbing traffic violations and other road-related offenses in the FCT, there is a push for a change in orientation of road users in Abuja. While calling for attitudinal change, experts advocate a change in road traffic policy to bring sanity to the roads with a view to saving and protecting lives.
Most of the time we feel we can do it and go away with it. And for as long as we keep doing it and going away with it, we will keep doing it. But for as long as we can put a system in place that will check it, I think we will be able to check it and people will change. There will be this attitudinal change. And that's what we are trying to do now. You know, we've been doing it. It's not easy putting men in places 24/7 because they are men. And there will be this, you know, fatigue will set in, and you can't.
Those in government are the ones who break the laws the more. They come around with their convoys. In most cases, once they break the traffic law, you see so many vehicles following behind them. Now, emergency situations will actually give room for if you're using ambulances, for instance. There must be a vision for.
Experts say while